Hi, my name is Lion Mashiri, Director, ZIM GreenCo. I'm attending ZIMZAM Energy Summit in Victoria Falls with Anna Ijuka. You can see more insights from Financial Insights.
So Anna, in your experience, given the current various policies we have as the country, where do you see your niche and how do IPTs work with you to manage some of the risks which were highlighted in terms of currency risks and other risks which were highlighted by Marshall and all the other speakers before you?
Thank you so much. Right, there's a lot to start with, but perhaps to, I think, congratulate everyone that we are even having this discussion that is not only about government procurement processes, it's about both that and private sector new offtake structures. I think that's important because in a way, the 𝘱𝘯𝘏 showed us from South Africa what's possible. But at the same time, I would have personally loved the 𝘱𝘯𝘏 to have stopped a bit sooner and that to have opened up more risk to the private sector. Because once you have a full-on sovereign guarantee, guaranteeing payment obligations like it's done in South Africa, and the lenders are not necessarily taking as innovative in their ways of funding as one should potentially be in all of our regions, which need to open up and effectively de-link power supply with fiscal impacts. And I think the realization that fiscal space is no longer there has caused incredible policy change, wave of policy changes over the past 3 years, starting from Zambia, New Electricity Act, allowing IPPs directly to supply to consumers, whether via traders and aggregators or directly, and allowing for that mix that I think everyone on the panel was referring to that is needed. Some projects will require government support, some projects perhaps on the fiscal impact side of things and payment protection side of things might not need as much. So seeing this wave of regulatory reform in Zambia, in Zimbabwe, it was always there, but not really, as memory said, the Zimbabwe market from the legal and regulatory perspective has always been opened, never prescribed a single buyer model. However, it is really now that we are all coming together to see, okay, within the reality of this regulatory openness, how can we come up with different funding models and different offtake structures to facilitate investment? So here is where we come to GreenCo, which is the new buyer in electricity sector of the SADC region, that we complement the utility. We don't replace the utility. We complement the utility for some renewable energy projects that we aggregate, and instead of our payment risk being guaranteed by the fiscal of the particular country, where we attract investment into domestic generation, we utilize the Southern African power pool as a trader on the power pool for that risk payment mitigation. And that regional connectivity, and now suddenly looking at the demand, not through the lens of a single country risk, but multiple country risks, makes the lenders much more comfortable to consider a new innovative way of funding these projects. So, but as Memory said, talking about Zimbabwe, I would absolutely concur that the innovative element was there in terms of approaching ZTTDC, ZERA. We are now a licensed buyer, trader and supplier in Zimbabwe, and the Ministry of Energy to try and come at, and ZEDA as well, to come up with a new innovative model. And we're delighted that we signed heads of terms with two IPPs yesterday, of course, with Memory and with Grid Africa as well. In terms of grid risks, we have in place agreed use of system wheeling agreements with ZTTDC, as well as the system operations arrangements that deal with energy imbalance issues, ancillary services, and compensating the utility for effectively utilizing their grid, whether it be the transmission or distribution infrastructure. And by doing that, we are facilitating the utility opening up their cost structures, which is so important because often they don't get compensated fully for the required amount of work that they need to do to balance the grid, and especially the intermittent supply. And I think that's one of the lessons from the REIPP. Whilst it has been a very successful program, not sure Eskom is very happy about it when it comes to them not being compensated for the many ancillary services they have to do when it comes to intermittency integration into a coal-based generation fleet. So perhaps some of those costs, had they been unpacked earlier, would have brought the utility along further with us on this trajectory towards new, energy transition. So a lot to learn, both negatives and positives for all, but I think not having a set must plan is actually good, because it really influences and allows for innovative models to be there. And now I'm passing the baton on to FMO, but really I can only congratulate them as the lender to our first IPP in Zambia for coming around and understanding the SAP, the value of the SAP, the risk mitigation, and the value of these new innovative business models, whether they be provided by GreenCo, by many others, or directly from an IPP to a CNI consumer. I just wanted to congratulate also Mr. Sylvester there on behalf of CEC. A big shout to that, because they launched a much oversubscribed bond issuance for their CEC renewables. Amazing, amazing accomplishment in the Zambian energy sector, now that we are speaking quite a lot about Zimbabwe here on the panel, because they've managed to attract a significant amount of funding through bond issuance for new renewable energy supply that they are generating under CEC renewables. So it is that type of direction we should all be learning from and going towards. Thank you very much.
I think as an IPP in Zimbabwe, what we find in the market is obviously significant demand. So there's definitely a demand which is obvious for us as a player, which is not always obvious in other markets. So I think, and I'll just like to piggyback on what 𝘠𝘠𝘏 said, that the market in Zimbabwe is a negotiated offtake market. But I think what we also find is that it's open. So even before South Africa, Zimbabwe was already developing IPPs. There was already wheeling framework, there was already net metering framework. So as a country, we have been quite ahead in terms of making the market open for developers and as a sector in general. I think what has worked well for us is that openness and ability to find solutions. So I think with any market, there are always challenges that you'd find. But what works well is the open door policy, and I think credit to the Ministry of Energy in that although we do have problems or challenges in the sector, we have the ability to try and find various solutions that would work. So from an offtake perspective and looking at the Tatanga pipeline, for example, we have offtake abilities to sell to ZETDC, and we find that this model works particularly for some of our smaller projects. So our 5 megawatt project is a project that we're developing on the back of local funding. And I think that's something that we're increasingly seeing in the market, the ability for local pension funds and institutions to invest in projects. So our hydropower project, for example, was funded 50% with international funding from Frontier Energy, as well as Old Mutual, who crowded in other pension funds. So we saw the Public Services Pension Fund, ZB Holdings Pension Fund, and MOL, which is an institutional investor, coming in. So we are seeing foreign and local participants coming in to fund projects. What we, however, seeing is that a lot of these projects are equity funded. And I think that's where we need to focus on how can we get senior debt into the market to fund these projects. And I think for us, that's why the Africa GreenCo structure is something that we find very exciting. So as our projects increase in size from 5 megawatts to the 30 megawatts that we're talking to Africa GreenCo on, it's trying to address that issue around, increasing the size and bringing in senior debt into the projects. And I think FiZ will speak to what lenders require. But I think the offtake that we will be getting from Africa GreenCo tries to address the long-term payment restrictions, as well as convertibility and currency issues that we see that the local investors are comfortable with for smaller projects. But as we get bigger and need more and more international funding, we need to think about what structures will make international investors, will satisfy international investors. So we're looking to Africa GreenCo in terms of that project. For our wind power project, our strategy is, actually I'm looking at Steve, is a SAP offtake. So we're developing this because it's 100 megawatts. So even if we were to look for a CNI, we won't find one particular customer who's able to buy all that power. So we're hoping that, given the track record that SAP has, the structure that it has in terms of payments, that this is a project that we can sell onto SAP, given the mitigants that we see in that market.
Hi everyone, we've just witnessed a very interesting signing ceremony, and with me is one of the key people who was actually signing an agreement with GreenCo. How are you?
Afternoon.
Good.
Good, thank you.
Good. It's good to now catch up. We've just witnessed a very interesting signing ceremony, but for those of viewers who don't know who you are, you'll be able to tell about yourself, introduce yourself, as well as the project that you represent and the signing ceremony that we just witnessed.
Sure. So my name is 𝘈𝘠𝘠𝘠𝘠 𝘠𝘠𝘠𝘠. I'm one of the co-founders and directors of Tatanga Energy. Tatanga Energy is an IPP developer developing mainly renewable energy projects in Zimbabwe and Zambia. My day-to-day role is to develop on-grid renewable energy projects. So this afternoon, we just signed a heads of terms agreement with Africa GreenCo. This is for our 𝘓𝘓𝘂 Solar project. 𝘓𝘓𝘂 Solar is a project that we are developing in 𝘗𝘗𝘁 in Zimbabwe. It's licensed for 50 megawatts, and we're looking at a first phase of 30 megawatts DC, which we are looking to Africa GreenCo to offtake. So this is a significant milestone for the project. We have been developing it for a number of years now, and I think for any project, getting the revenue stream and the offtake agreement is always, the most critical thing. So we believe that with this agreement that we've signed with Africa GreenCo, it really will help us to get the project closer to financial close and in turn closer to construction.
Right. How significant is it that you had the signing ceremony at the tail end of the first day of this ZIMZAM Nation, and what are the key next steps following the signing itself?
So, very important. I think, we're gathered here with other key players in the sector. We're here together with our partners, JCM, who are a Canadian developer on this project as well. So it's great that everybody is here. We're all able to witness this in the lovely Victoria Falls. So yes.
Right, and then just finally, events like this usually bring like-minded investors, key energy experts, etc. Do you find these events very useful, and would you encourage other prospective developers also to take part in them?
I do. Personally, I do. I think we've, as Tatanga Energy, actually have a good number of a good project that we're working on that arose as a result of a conference. As I said, it's a place where people can meet, discuss, reconnect. In a world where we're all working virtually, sometimes it's good to put, see people in person and just make those connections. Because with most development, having that personal connection is what gets the projects over the line. So I do feel, the 2 days that, we're here and spending with other players in the sector is definitely a worthwhile investment.
Right, thank you so much for speaking to us, and we will touch base a little later regarding any other developments of note.
Thank you.
Hi, it's Mwelwa Kenneth and I'm about to have a very interesting conversation with one of our sponsors, Mr. Lion from GreenCo. Hi Lion, how are you doing?
I'm good. How are you doing?
I'm doing well. We're on day one of the ZIMZAM Energy Projects Summit. We've just obviously witnessed the first two panel discussions. Just tell us, give us an overview in terms of how you found the first two panel discussions, as well as some of your key takeaways.
Thank you, Ma. Very exciting insights coming from the two panels that we have had this morning. A lot of focus on how energy can be improved, how we can overcome energy poverty, how the two countries can benefit from each other, how the transmission infrastructure in particular can be improved. There were a lot of ideas, very brilliant ideas on how the transmission network in Zambia is going to be developed over the next 5 years, how the transmission interconnectors in ZIM are going to be developed, and these are going to facilitate energy trading between the countries and within the region as well. Also very brilliant ideas on how investment should start moving away from focusing on power purchase agreement as sources of funding to enable transmission projects, but focus on the sub-market as a liquid source of power that can actually fund transmission projects. So very brilliant ideas indeed, and also to clear ideas on why industry should stop focusing on national power utilities as the only source of their power solution problems, but look at private sector as well as a source of solution to the power problems. Look at partnering private sector and partnering development partners and coming up with credible, new and brilliant ideas to solve the power problems in Zambia and in Zimbabwe.
Oh, absolutely. No, thank you so much, Lion. So we will be catching up with you with a sit-down interview a little later on. So enjoy the proceedings.
Thank you so much.
I've just come off from a very interesting panel where, for myself, talking about the region, I had somebody talking about off-grid solutions. I also had a banker talking about how to bring in solutions. But one of the things that I underpinned was we need transmission in order to enable the connection of all these renewable energy projects that are coming on board and allow regional trading to take place. And one of the key messages I am sending is there's an opportunity to leverage on the regional market in order to drive investments in both generation and transmission for the benefit of the region, the whole Southern African development community.
Lion, today we witnessed GreenCo sign two agreements. Are you able to just give us a high-level overview of what those two agreements were and why they were so significant to have them signed at ZIMZAM?
Thank you, Mwelwa. The two agreements that we signed today, the first agreement we signed a 100 megawatt agreement with Grid Africa. The second agreement is a 30 megawatt agreement with Sable Solar or JCM. The criticality of these two projects comes in that these projects are going to set the pace. They are going to be to set up the tone for investment in renewable energy going forward. Grid Africa is putting up 100 megawatts at a farm in the Midlands province of Zimbabwe, and Sable Solar is putting up 30 megawatts also at another farm in the same province, in the Midlands province. And to us as GreenCo, this is a huge milestone. It is going to lead us to sign the full form agreements, and the two counterparts, Grid Africa and Sable Solar, will eventually be able to then start construction. And we are looking forward to, in terms of timelines, we are looking forward to having construction start somewhere in around Q2 of 2025 for Sable Solar, and probably around the same period also for Grid Africa. One of the key issues that comes with the Grid Africa agreement is that this is an arrangement that has got off-takers on the other side and the generator on the other side. GreenCo has just come in now to facilitate the bankability of this project. And this is one of the key strengths of Africa GreenCo, in that it helps get the projects banked.